Shalom Israel, grace and blessings from God the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ be unto you. All praises to the Most High that we made it another week to another Bible History 101. So yeah, like I said, I'm just gonna give all praises to the Most High because up until about an hour and a half ago, I'd forgot what day it was, and it has been that kind of week. But you know, all praises to the Most High, He brought it to my remembrance. And of course, we ain't gonna. All praises to the Most High, He brought it to my. Okay, so we ain't gonna. Without any further ado, we're gonna get right into it. And I ain't gonna slack tonight on y'all. I want to get through. I got a stopping place in mind. So however long it takes, that's how long it takes. It's probably not going to be that long, if I'm being honest. I want to get to the end of chapter 18 because next week I want to pick up with 19. But first things first, we have to get through the Exodus. All right, because last week we stopped at the 9th plague, or rather after chapter 11, where Moses saw Pharaoh for the last time, or went to his quarters for the last time, went to his palace, whatever they had in Egypt, for the last time, describing what was going to happen with the 10th plague. All right, so we're going to start right where we left off, picking up with Exodus 12, starting with verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. All right. And in the next chapter, we'll actually see. Actually, because I don't think we're going to read that part of that chapter in Exodus 13. It says this month, he goes into this day, this Exodus 13 and 4 says, This day came ye out in the month Abib. All right, Abib means a bud or a green ear of corn. All right, or a green barley. Regardless, it's when plants first start budding. That's the beginning of the year. That's the spring. All right. It said, This month, meaning Abib, the budding, the springing forth, shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. And it only makes sense. That's when nature starts again, right? That's when everything else begins its year. Why not us too? Just because the world tells you it's in the middle of winter, that the new year is in the middle of winter. How does that make any sense? But people go along with it because it's tradition, it's custom. But God said the spring is the beginning of the year. Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for a house. And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number of the souls. Every man according to his eating shall make your count for the lamb. Now, normally, and you'll actually see some of this tonight, while we're doing Bible History 101, we're not going to get into the laws that's found in Exodus and Leviticus and Numbers. All right, but rather we're just going to touch on the history that happened again because this is Bible History 101. All right, whenever I start doing the Wednesday night lessons that are after Bible History 101, we start getting into what I'm going to be doing after that. We'll get into some laws in that, I'm sure. But for now, we're not really going to touch on any other laws. But this specifically about getting the lamb, this is part of the history. So we're going to talk about this one. But the other ones that we come across tonight, we're not going to get into. All right. It says, every man shall make a count. No, every man according to his eating shall make your count for the lamb. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. You shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats, right? So Passover can be with a sheep lamb or with a goat, all right? Either way, or a goat kid is what a baby goat's called. And ye shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month. And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening. And they shall take of the blood and strike it on the two side posts and on the upper door post of the houses, right? Make a like 3/4 of a rectangle, basically. All right, make a N or upside down U, however you want to describe it. But on the two sides and on the top. All right. Upper doorposts of the houses, wherein they shall eat it, and they shall eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire and unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. Eat not of it raw, nor sodden at all with water, but roast with fire. Right. So grill it. Don't boil it. That's what sodden means. His head with his legs, with the pertinence thereof, everything inside of it. And ye shall let nothing of it remain until the morning. And that which remaineth of it until the morning ye shall burn with fire. Right? So no leftovers. All right? And thus shall ye eat it with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand. And ye shall eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover. Right? Eat it quickly. All right? Don't linger on the lamb. For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast. And against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am the Lord. And the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you. Right, that's where the name Passover comes from. When God passed over the houses that had the blood, that had the lamb's blood. All right. And the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt. Now, if you are in... If you just believe in Christ, I ain't even necessarily saying you got to be in the truth. You got to be, this or that. This is not very deep, but all this symbolizes Christ. All right, Christ is the Lamb, right? He give His whole body. That's why I said with the pertinence thereof, right? He give His body as a whole burnt offering, right? Everyone who has the blood on his house, the Lord will spare them, right? All this is, symbolism for Christ, all right? And this day shall be unto you for a memorial, and ye shall keep it a feast to the Lord throughout your generations. Ye shall keep it a feast by an ordinance forever, all right? And Paul even said, that Christ, our Passover, is sacrificed for us. Therefore, keep the feast, right? So it's not like the people in the New Testament, in the New Covenant, that they just stopped keeping the Passover. Like that's not, it's not how it worked. That's not what the Scripture says in the Old Testament. It's not what they said in the New Testament either. They said, therefore, keep the feast. It says 7 days shall you eat unleavened bread, right? For a week you must eat unleavened bread. And again, 1 Corinthians 5 describes how leaven represents malice and wickedness. That's why you remove the leaven out of your house. You also do a self-examination to remove any malice or wickedness from yourself. All right. Even the first day you shall put away leaven out of your houses. For whosoever eateth leavened bread from the first day until the seventh day, that soul shall be cut off from Israel. Meaning you die, or at the very least banished. And in the first day there shall be a holy convocation. And in the seventh day there shall be a holy convocation to you. No manner of work shall be done in them, save that which every man must eat, that only may be done of you. Right? He said, look, I know you got to cook the bread, but besides that, you shouldn't be working. And ye shall observe the feast of unleavened bread, for in this selfsame day have I brought your armies out of the land of Egypt. Therefore shall ye observe this day in your generations by an ordinance forever. Right? So to remember what salvation the Lord has brought us. All right? That's why you keep the Passover. To remember the salvation of the Lord. Right? And people in the Christianity, the first talking about they're saved. So okay, so why don't you keep the holy day that God described for us to remember salvation? In the first month, on the 14th day of the month at even, ye shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at even, right, for a week. You eat the unleavened bread. And if you recall the Last Supper, right, we talked about that when we was going into the, death and resurrection of Christ. Or it may have been the last video on the works of Christ. Regardless, the point is, he was eating the Passover, all right? And he said this, the unleavened bread, because it was the Passover meal that he was eating, so it had to be unleavened bread. He said, this is my body, which is broken for you, right? So the bread symbolizes the body of Christ, all right? He also had wine there, but no commandment here says wine, but that commandment is in the New Testament when Christ said the wine is the blood. Let's see. 7 days there shall be no leaven found in your houses, for whosoever eateth that which is leavened, even that soul shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether he be a stranger or born in the land, right? So it doesn't matter whoever's in the land, if it's, just somebody passing through or it's an Israelite, if they are not keeping the Passover the way they should be, they got to go, all right? Ye shall eat nothing leavened, in all your habitations shall ye eat unleavened bread. Then Moses called for all the elders of Israel and said unto them, draw out and take you a lamb according to your families and kill the Passover. And ye shall take a bunch of hyssop and dip it in the blood that is in the basin and strike the lintel. And the 2 side posts with the blood that is in the basin, and none of you shall go out at the door of his house until the morning. He said, stay inside. The angel of death is about to come through. Y'all stay inside. Just put the blood on your doors and stay inside. Whatever you do, don't come outside. All right? For the Lord will pass through to smite the Egyptians. And when he seeth the blood upon the lintel and on the 2 side posts, the Lord will pass over the door and will not suffer the destroyer to come in unto your houses to smite you. And ye shall observe this thing for an ordinance to thee and to thy sons forever. And it shall come to pass when ye be come to the land which the Lord will give you according as he hath promised, that ye shall keep this service. Right? So Moses said, look, when you're back in the land, keep the Passover. All right? He said, keep it forever. And it shall come to pass when your children shall say unto you, what mean ye by this service? Right? The children are going to ask, hey, why do we keep the Passover? That ye shall say, it is the sacrifice of the Lord's Passover, who passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt, when he smote the Egyptians and delivered our houses, and the people bowed their head in worship. Right? So notice what he already knows, because kids are curious, right? Moses had kids. He knew how they were. He said one day they're going to ask, why do we do this? All right? And you're going to tell them, hey, this is because God saved our people from Egypt. All right? And he smote the Egyptians and he delivered us. Isn't that a much better story to tell, or much better a much better I suppose story, but for lack of a better term, story to tell your children, as opposed to a giant bunny running around lays eggs in your yard, like then giving them lies. Give them the truth instead of lies. Like, isn't that much better to tell your children the truth about history and to celebrate the truth of salvation, as opposed to giving them lies? Oh, later we're going to run around and look for these colorful eggs that the Easter Bunny put out. Like, that's all BS. That's all lies. Why? Why feed your children lies when you could give them the truth? It don't make no sense. Isn't this better than saying, oh, this big fat guy's going to climb down our chimney and give us presents? Like, why feed them lies when you could feed them the truth? It just doesn't make any sense whenever you just stop to think about it for a little bit. It just doesn't make any sense. But it's tradition, it's custom, so people keep it. They go along with it. Nobody considers their ways. That what they've been doing, lying to their families for years and years, generations on generations, is wrong. You shouldn't do that. God never prescribed that. God's not going to be okay with that. Anyway, and the children of Israel went away and did as the Lord had commanded Moses and Aaron. So did they. All right, so everybody listened. Surprisingly, everybody listened. And it came to pass that at midnight the Lord smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on his throne unto the firstborn of the captive that was in the dungeon. All right, all the Egyptians got it, all of them. And all the firstborn of cattle, and all their beasts as well. And Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants, and all the Egyptians. And there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead. There was a great cry, obviously. I mean, everybody, they 1 minute, you know, they're having a good time with their son, and next minute he's dead. Of course there's a great cry. And he called for Moses and Aaron by night and said, rise up and get you forth from among my people, both ye and the children of Israel, and go serve the Lord, as ye have said. Right, so Pharaoh, he said, that's it. He said, that's it. That's enough. Also take your flocks and your herds, as ye have said, and be gone, and bless me also. He said, please. Because you got to remember from last week, Pharaoh, he was proud and he was stubborn, but he was really ready for them to go. By the ninth plague, he was ready. He said, look, please get out of here, but bless me. Make sure that this stops happening, because as far as Pharaoh knows, this is going to happen to him forever. And all these different, just more and more of this, as far as he knows, because he don't serve the God of Israel. He don't know what God is telling Moses other than what Moses has told him, and he didn't want to believe it. So he don't know what's coming next. He don't know. So he said, please leave, as you said, but bless me though. Make sure that this doesn't happen anymore. All right. And the Egyptians were urgent upon the people that they might send them out of the land in haste. They're all saying, get out, leave, please, whatever it takes, just leave us alone. All right. For they said, we be all dead men. They said, look, they're going to kill all of us. They're already taking one per house. Who are they going to take next? They going to take the youngest? They just took the oldest. And the people took their dough before it was leavened, their kneading troughs being bound up in the clothes upon their shoulders. See, that's why we eat the unleavened bread for the Passover. Not only is it symbolic, but the Israelites, they didn't have time for it to rise. They didn't have time for the leavening agents to kick in. It was they being thrust out by the Egyptians, because all the Egyptian children are dead. All the firstborn, I should say. And the children of Israel did according to the word of Moses, and they borrowed of the Egyptians jewels of silver and jewels of gold and raiment. So on the way out, some people had already borrowed at once Moses told them, but some of the other people was like on their way out, hey, can I borrow some? They're like, yes, please, just get out. Other people was like, hey, what about the necklace that you want me? No, just leave. And the Lord gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they lent unto them such things as they required. And they spoiled the Egyptians, right? They took all the Egyptian wealth, all the jewels of gold, or rather all the jewels, all the gold, everything. The raiment, clothes, you know. Just, hey, can I borrow this? Can I borrow that? Verse 37. And the children of Israel journeyed from Ramses to Succoth, about 600,000 on foot that were men, besides children, right? And numbers actually give the actual number of the men of war, and it's over 600,000. And a mixed multitude went up also with them, and flocks and herds, even very much cattle, right? So some people, because the Egyptians didn't just have the Israelites as slaves, especially the Israelites, but they also had, just random other people as, hired servants and slaves and, whoever else. And those people saw the opportunity here to say, hey, we can leave Egypt. We don't have to stay here no more. Egypt's crippled. These people seem like they got it going on. So they left with them. That's the mixed multitude. There's a whole bunch of random people that weren't Israelites. And they had plenty of cattle too. And they baked unleavened cakes of the dough which they brought forth out of Egypt, for it was not leavened, because they were thrust out of Egypt and could not tarry. Neither had they prepared for themselves any victual. Right? So they didn't have any bread that was already baked. They just had the unleavened bread. Now the sojourning of the children of Israel who dwelt in Egypt was 430 years. Right? So that was the total amount of time. 430 years. There's something that I kind of... Oh yeah, from Ramses to Succoth. All that's like along the Red Sea. From Ramses to Succoth. I don't think I have, I think this map, I don't know if y'all can see this very well. But this map's actually pretty good right here, and I'm just gonna make my. Well, y'all can already see it better than I can, really. I guess I can kind of zoom in on that, and I know that if I try to open it up in another tab, it's not gonna look very good, just because it's blurry. As you can see, the resolution is not even getting much better. But so Ramses to Succoth is like right in here on the west of the Red Sea. It's like right there on the Red Sea. So yeah, let's reset that. Picking up with verse 40. Yeah, I just read 40. They were there total 430 years. And it came to pass at the end of the 430 years, even the self-same day it came to pass that all the hosts of the Lord went out from the land of Egypt, right? All the armies. When it says hosts, right here, it means armies. And that's what God called the Israelites, as we read earlier. He brought his armies up out of Egypt. Yeah, where do you say your armies? Yeah. In this self-same day I brought your armies out of the land of Egypt. That's what it means when he said hosts. The host of the Lord went out from the land of Egypt. Verse 42. It is a night to be much observed unto the Lord for bringing them out from the land of Egypt. This is that night of the Lord to be observed of all the children of Israel in their generations. Right? One of the big three feast days. All right. Passover is the one in the spring. Pentecost is the one in the summer. And then Tabernacles is the one in the harvest time in the fall. All right, not too long ago. That was a couple weeks ago. We we finished that up a couple weeks ago. I guess it's almost a month now, 3 weeks ago. But anyway, Exodus 12 and 43. And this is a law, but I'll just finish this up because it's kind of brief. And the Lord said unto Moses and Aaron, this is the ordinance of the Passover. There shall no stranger eat thereof, right? Somebody who is just, like, for example, passing through the land. Somebody who is just, let's say they were journeying from Syria down into Egypt, or from Arabia to the Mediterranean to take a sailboat somewhere. They can't eat the Passover. If they're journeying through the land through the Passover time, they can't eat the Passover. But every man's servant that is bought for money, when thou hast circumcised him, then shall he eat thereof. But a slave can't eat it, as long as they're circumcised. A foreigner and a hired servant shall not eat thereof, right? But someone who you do not own, right? He just works for you, and, just some sojourner through the land, a friend of yours, a buddy of yours that is a foreigner, he can't eat it. All right. In one house shall it be eaten. Thou shalt not carry forth aught of the flesh abroad out of the house. Right. You can't send somebody leftovers. Neither shall you break a bone thereof. Right. You're supposed to keep. And that's actually, again, another reference to Christ. None of his bones were broken while he was on the cross. All the congregation of Israel shall keep it. Right? Everybody got to keep it. And when a stranger shall sojourn with thee and will keep the Passover to the Lord, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it. And he shall be as one that is born in the land. For no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof. Right? But if a stranger insists and, he wants to keep the Passover, okay, get circumcised, and everybody who lives with you, every man that lives with you, got to be circumcised. It doesn't matter if it's your slave, your children, your family, whatever it is, your friend who's staying with you, all of them got to be circumcised. Then you can eat it. All right. And it says right here, verse 49, one law shall be to him that is homeborn and to the stranger that sojourneth among you. Right. So, It doesn't matter who you are. If you're keeping the Passover, you got to be circumcised. All right. Thus did all the children of Israel, as the Lord commanded Moses and Aaron, so did they. And it came to pass the selfsame day that the Lord did bring the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt by their armies. All right. So let's keep going. And with Exodus 13, again, this is just what's the word I'm looking for? Reiterating verses 1 through 16 about how to keep the Passover. All right, and how to dedicate the firstborn unto the Lord. All right. Verse 17. And it came to pass when Pharaoh had let the people go, that God led them not through the way of the land of the Philistines, right? Because he could have led them, he could have walked them out of Egypt. Because at that time there was no Suez Canal. He could have just led them by the way of the Philistines, just walked them from Egypt into Israel if he wanted to. That's what God could have done, but he didn't. Although that was near, for God said, lest peradventure the people repent when they see war and they return to Egypt, right? So he didn't want to lead them directly to the Philistines because the people would get scared and run back. God knew his people. He knew that they were weak and were not ready to fight. So he said, no, I got something better for them. But God led the people about through the way of the wilderness of the Red Sea. And the children of Israel went up harnessed out of the land of Egypt. And Moses took the bones of Joseph with him, for he had straitly sworn the children of Israel, saying, God will surely visit you, and ye shall carry up my bones away hence with you. Right? We read that in Genesis 50, I believe. And they took their journey from Succoth and encamped in Etham, in the edge of the wilderness. Right? So that same general region on the west of the Red Sea, a little bit more south than as I was showing earlier with Goshen. And the Lord went before them by day in a pillar of a cloud to lead them the way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light to go by day and night. So this is not two different crafts. This is the same ship. But at that time, they didn't know to describe it like we do today as a UFO or like it's better than an airplane. So like we'd probably say, oh, it looked like an airplane. But they just, if you see something bright in the sky and it's not the sun, it's a cloud, right? That's why they said cloud. And what do they have for lights? You see some light in the sky, or just lights in general. Back then, they didn't have electric lights. They had fire, right? So, pillar of a cloud, pillar of a fire, it's the same craft, all right? One is just, shining in the daytime. The other one's shining at night, all right? So, and it's cigar shaped. That's why it's pillar. A pillar shaped is, cigar shaped. And by night in a pillar of fire to give them by light to go by day and night. He took not away the pillar of the cloud by day, nor the pillar of fire by night from before the people, right? This specific, what you would call UFO today, this craft, this chariot, as another scripture may call it, it was always over and over, all right? And it even says to give them light, to go by day and night, so that lets you know that the pillar of the cloud and the pillar of fire, it just means it had lights on the ship. Lights on the chariot, whatever you want to say. So Exodus 14. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, speaking to the children of Israel, that they turn and encamp before Pi-hahiroth, between Migdol and the sea, over against Baal-zephon. Alright, so it's giving you Etam in the region up here. I don't know how well you can see that. And I don't know how zooming's going to do, but I'll try. That's a little better. Just right here at the northernmost part of the Red Sea before it became the Suez Canal. That's all it is. One of the most northern parts of the Red Sea, I'll say. Let's back up. All right. Before it shall ye encamp by the sea. For Pharaoh will say of the children of Israel, they are entangled in the land. The wilderness has shut them in. And I will harden Pharaoh's heart, that he shall follow after them, and I will be honored upon Pharaoh and upon all his host, that the Egyptians may know that I am the Lord. And they did so, right? So God said, look, I ain't finished with Pharaoh and them Egyptians yet. They're going to know who the only real God is. And it was told the king of Egypt that the people fled. And the heart of Pharaoh and of his servants was turned against the people. And they said, why have we done this? That we have let Israel go from serving us. And he made ready his chariot and took his people with him. Right? How quick are they to forget? And he took 600 chosen chariots and all the chariots of Egypt and captains over every one of them. And the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and he pursued after the children of Israel. And the children of Israel went out with a high hand. But the Egyptians pursued after them all the horses and chariots of Pharaoh and his horsemen and his army, and overtook them encamping by the sea beside Pi-hahiroth before Baal-zephon. Right? So they caught up with them. The Egyptians caught up with the Israelites. And when Pharaoh drew nigh, the children of Israel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians marched after them, and they were sore afraid. And the children of Israel cried out unto the Lord. And they said unto Moses, because there was no graves in Egypt, hast thou taken us away to die in the wilderness? Wherefore hast thou dealt thus with us, to carry us forth out of Egypt? Right? So this is the first of many times we're going to see, as we're going through Bible History 101, where we're going to see these wicked and foolish Israelites, this wicked and foolish generation that no faith, even though they've just seen all the plagues being done, they just saw how the Lord destroyed the enemy to bring them to salvation, still no faith at all. They said, what, was there not enough graves in Egypt? You're going to kill us out here? And like they always whining, always complaining, and that's what we're going to see from them over the next few weeks. It's just always just nonstop complaints and murmuring and just foolishness. All right. Is not this the word that we did tell thee in Egypt, saying, let us alone that we may serve the Egyptians? For it had been better for us to serve the Egyptians than that we should die in the wilderness. Right? They want to go back to the plantation because that's all they've ever known. They don't want freedom. Freedom's hard. All right. And Moses said unto the people, fear ye not, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will show to you today. See, Moses didn't have that problem because Moses wasn't weak. All right. Moses, first of all, he had faith because the Lord was dealing with him. All right. But also, he believed and he knew the salvation that God could bring. All right. For the Egyptians whom ye have seen today, ye shall see them again no more forever. The Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. You know what hold your peace means? It means shut up. He said, look, all that complaining, y'all shut the hell up. God's going to fight for you. He's going to show you salvation. You ain't never going to see these Egyptians again. And the Lord said unto Moses, wherefore criest thou unto me? Speak unto the children of Israel that they go forward. Right? So the Lord said, why are you asking me? Just go. But lift thou up thy rod and stretch out thy hand over the sea and divide it. And the children of Israel shall go on dry ground through the midst of the sea. And I, behold, I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians, and they shall follow them. And I will get me honor upon Pharaoh and upon all his hosts, and upon his chariots and upon his horsemen. And the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord, when I have gotten me honor upon Pharaoh, upon his chariots and upon his horsemen. Right? So he said, look, all the Egyptians going to know when I destroy all the armies of Egypt, they're going to know that I'm the only real God. They're not going to be, well, I say that. The Egyptians probably went back to their own silly, pagan deities. But they understood who the real God was, not to mess with the God of Abraham, Isaac, and the Israelites. All right. Abraham, Isaac, Israel, and the Israelites, I should say. And the angel of God, which went before the camp of Israel, removed and went behind them, and the pillar of the cloud went from before their face and stood behind them. And it came between the camp of the Egyptians and the camp of Israel. And it was a cloud and darkness to them, but it gave light by night to these, so that the one came not near the other all the night. You see that right there? So they couldn't even. The Egyptians, they seen that chariot, they seen the pillar, of the cloud. They said, "No, we ain't going. We can't go no further. That thing's scary. We gotta stay back here." All right, and Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea dry land. and the waters were divided. And the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea upon the dry ground, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left. Right? So it's not just the waters went away like it was a tide. No, it was a wall of water. All right? This is not like a natural phenomenon. This is a supernatural phenomenon. This is a miracle from God. All right? He said, wall of water right here, a wall of water right there. And the Egyptians pursued and went in after them to the midst of the sea, even all Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his horsemen. And it came to pass that in the morning, and it came to pass that in the morning watch, the Lord looked unto the host of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and of the cloud, and troubled the host of the Egyptians, and took off their chariot wheels, that they drave them heavily, so that the Egyptians said, let us flee from the face of Israel, for the Lord fighteth for them against the Egyptians. All right, so again, that pillar came down and it put the fear of God in them, quite literally. But yeah, like I don't have the video pulled up, but there's a video that I put on Ezekiel Israel teaching page, and maybe you have to find it. I don't know exactly where it is. Maybe I'll post it on Facebook. But like, you can still find these chariots at the bottom of the Red Sea. Like, this actually happened. People act like, oh, these are myths and fairy tales and legends. Like, no, like, you can find the evidence for this. It's out there. You just gotta look for it. Like, again, chariots and chariot wheels at the bottom of the Red Sea. Like, it's out there. And the Lord said unto Moses, stretch out thy hand over the sea, that the waters may come again upon the Egyptians, upon their chariots and upon their horsemen. And Moses stretched forth his hand over the sea, and the sea returned to its strength when the morning appeared. And the Egyptians fled against it, and the Lord overthrew the Egyptians in the midst of the sea. Right? They seen the water come back, they started running. But it's too late now, you're in the middle of the sea. And the waters returned and covered the chariots and the horsemen, and all the host of Pharaoh that came into the sea after them, there remained not so much as one of them. But the children of Israel walked upon dry land in the midst of the sea. And the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left. Thus the Lord saved Israel that day out of the hand of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead upon the seashore. And Israel saw that great work which the Lord did upon the Egyptians, and the people feared the Lord and believed the Lord and his servant Moses. All right, so as I said earlier, that does not last long with this wicked and foolish generation that's going into the wilderness here. But most of Exodus 15, as it says here, is Moses' song of deliverance. This is basically a psalm, so we're not going to necessarily get into this. It's great, and it just recaps basically all what we just read. The Lord is a man of war. The Lord is his name. And it talks about how the chariots and the horsemen went into the sea. So I'm going to pick up with verse 20. And Miriam the prophetess, the sister of Aaron, took a timbrel in her hand, and all the women went out after her with timbrels and with dances, right? So it's not just Moses singing his song, celebration towards the Lord. It's also, plenty of other brothers and sisters as well. In this case, Miriam and, some of the other sisters, right? And Miriam answered them, sing ye to the Lord. For he hath triumphed gloriously, the horse and his rider hath he thrown into the sea. All right. So this is the same Miriam that, had basically raised Moses up in, Pharaoh's house. So Moses brought Israel from the Red Sea, and they went out into the wilderness of Shur. And they went 3 days in the wilderness and found no water. And when they came to Marah, when they came to Marah, they could not drink of the waters of Marah, for they were bitter. Therefore, the name of it was called Marah. Right. So, bitter in this case is probably closer to like salt water. Right. And the people murmured against Moses, saying, what shall we drink? And he cried unto the Lord, and the Lord showed him a tree, which when he had cast into the waters were made sweet. There he made for them a statute and an ordinance, and there he proved them, and said, if thou wilt diligently hearken to the voice of the Lord thy God, and will do that which is right in his sight, and will give ear to his commandments, and keep all his statutes, I will put none of these diseases upon thee which I have brought upon the Egyptians, for I am the Lord that healeth thee, right? The same way he healed the water, right? So this tree had turned, these salt water into like a sugar water type, all right? They came to Elim, where were 12 wells of water, and 70 that's 70 palm trees, and they encamped there by the waters. All right, so now they're in Elim. Let's keep on keeping on. In Exodus 16, starting with 1, and they took their journey from Elim, and all the congregation of the children of Israel came unto the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month after their departing out of the land of Egypt. Right, so now they're in the Sinai Peninsula. All right. Mount Sinai being, as you can see down, well, let me pull up a map just so y'all can see a little better, see a little clearer maybe. I think this is the only one that I really have of Sinai without anyway. But, this is the wilderness of Sin is like in the northern part of this peninsula. And you get down into the southern part of the peninsula is where you get into Horeb, right? Mount Sinai. All right. Right. So this is a month after the Passover. And the whole congregation of the children of Israel murmured against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. Here we go again. And the children of Israel said unto them, would to God we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the flesh pots, and when we did eat bread to the full, for ye have brought us forth into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger, right? Because they were eating good in Egypt. Yeah, they were slaves. They weren't free, but, they eat good, just like us here in America, all right? Sure, we don't really have all the freedom to do everything that we want, as far as you still subject to payments, you still got to pay your bills, so you still need to have a job that you don't necessarily want to do. And, that's going to take up most of your day. But, hey, at least you can buy all the cookies that you want. At least you can, get all the, go to the grocery store and get you some ground beef, right? That's the same mentality. It's the same mentality. You can go buy all the chicken and ham hocks and bacon that you want, It's the same mentality that this wicked generation that was in the wilderness. All right. Then said the Lord unto Moses, behold, I will rain bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather a certain rate every day, that I may prove them whether they will walk in my law or no. And it shall come to pass on the 6th day they shall prepare that which they bring in, and it shall be twice as much as they gather daily. And Moses and Aaron said unto all the children of Israel, at even, then you shall know that the Lord hath brought you out from the land of Egypt. And in the morning, then shall ye see the glory of the Lord. For that he heareth your murmurings against the Lord. And what are we that ye murmur against us? Right? So Moses and Aaron is like, look, we are just servants of God. Y'all are really hating on God. Y'all ain't hating on us. We ain't done nothing. We just done what God told us to do. But yeah, God said, okay, I hear them. I'm going to give them what the angels eat. I'm going to give them what we eat in heaven. That's the mercy of the Lord. That's the grace of the Lord. And Moses said, this shall be when the Lord shall give you in the evening flesh to eat, and in the morning bread to the full. But that the Lord heareth your murmurings which ye murmur against him. And what are we? Your murmurings are not against us, but against the Lord. All right. And Moses spake unto Aaron, saying to all the congregation of the children of Israel, come near before the Lord, for he hath heard your murmurings. And it came to pass, as Aaron spake unto the whole congregation of the children of Israel, that they looked toward the wilderness, and behold, the glory of the Lord appeared in the cloud. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, I have heard the murmurings of the children of Israel, speaking to them, saying, at even ye shall eat flesh, and in the morning ye shall be filled with bread. Ye shall know that I am the Lord your God. And it came to pass that at even the quails came up and covered the camp. And in the morning the dew lay round about the host. And when the dew that lay up was gone up, behold, upon the face of the wilderness there lay a small round thing, as small as the hoarfrost on the ground. Right, so very little, just like a little thing, little small round thing. And when the children of Israel saw it, they said one to another, it is manna. for they wist not what it was. Manna, I believe, is a word that means unknown or something along those lines. And Moses said unto them, this is the bread which the Lord hath given you to eat. This is the thing which the Lord hath commanded. Gather of it every man to his eating. An omer for every man, according to the number of your persons. Take ye every man for them which are in his tents. So I don't know how much an omer is, and I think it might actually be Homer with a H. Let's see. 10th part of an ephah, and it says that later. Unit of measurement, and it doesn't really say, but it's a 10th of an ephah, as it says later. How much is an ephah? No, come on now. It says 10th part of an ephah, H. Ephah got an H on the end. Ephah. What's an ephah? To a bushel, 35 liters, right? So, 3.5 liters is an omer, right? Right, that's what that says, 35 liters, I think. Yeah, 10th omer, a little over a bushel, all right? So, where is it at? The omer. Okay, I'm all the way down here at verse... Yes, verse 16. This is the thing which the Lord had commanded. Gather it, every man according to his eating, and omer for every man. According to the number of your persons, take ye every man for them which are in his tents. And the children of Israel did so and gathered, some more, some less. And when they did meet it with an omer, he that gathered much had nothing over, and he that gathered little had no lack. They gathered every man according to his eating, right? So everybody, just went out and got what they want. But when they measured it, it all measured up to exactly the same thing for every person. All right? And Moses said, let no man leave of it till the morning. Notwithstanding, they hearkened not unto Moses, but some of them left of it until the morning, and it bred worms and stank, and Moses was wroth with them. Right? So, again, this wicked and foolish generation do not know how to receive instruction. They were told, look, you're going to be able to gather it tomorrow. Don't save none of it. All right? So, of course, you had some wicked dude who was like, well, Moses ain't gonna know if I leave. Some wicked woman was like, how they gonna know if I just leave? And of course, they couldn't keep it up. It just perished on them, right? It bred worms and it stank in a day, right? Like, that's, food doesn't normally do that. It doesn't usually go bad in a day, but this is not your typical food, right? And this is manna from heaven. I'm sure in heaven it would last, but on earth it's a completely different thing, But anyway, and they gathered it every morning, every man according to his eating, and when the sun waxed hot, it melted. And it came to pass that on the 6th day they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers for one man, and all the rulers of the congregation came and told Moses. And he said unto them, this is that which the Lord hath said. Right? So 2 omers, I guess, would be 7 liters. This is that which the Lord hath said. Tomorrow is the rest of the holy Sabbath unto the Lord. Bake that which you will bake today, and seed that you will seed. And that which remaineth over, lay up for you to be kept until the morning. Right? So don't cook on the Sabbath, is what he's saying here. And they laid it up until the morning, as Moses bade, and it did not stink. Neither was there any worm therein. And Moses said, eat that today, for today is the Sabbath unto the Lord. Today ye shall not find it in the field. 6 days ye shall gather it, but on the 7th day, which is the Sabbath, in it there shall be none. Right? He said, God's not going to give it to you on the Sabbath. That's why you got twice as much on the 6th day. And it came to pass that there went out some other people on the 7th day for to gather, and they found none. And the Lord said unto Moses, how long refuse you to keep my commandments and my laws? Right? Moses, this is like literally a month. Yes, it's literally a month out of the Exodus. People already not listening. Moses tells them one thing and they do the other. Again, this wicked and foolish generation that came out of the wilderness. Or that came out of Egypt into the wilderness. This is crazy. All right. See, for that the Lord hath given you the Sabbath. Therefore, he giveth you on the 6th day the bread of 2 days. Abide ye every man in his place. Let no man go out of his place on the 7th day. Right? So don't leave your house to go and gather goods on the Sabbath. Today we call that shopping. Back then, even going out and trying to, pick it up out of the dew, right? That's was forbidden. So the people rested on the 7th day. And the house of Israel called the name thereof manna, and it was like coriander seed, white. And the taste of it was like wafers made with honey, right? Sugar wafers. It was like honey wafers. And Moses said, this is the thing which the Lord commanded. Fill an omer of it to be kept for your generation, that they may see the bread wherewith I have fed you in the wilderness when I brought you forth from the land of Egypt. So he said, you can keep some, but you can keep some in store forever, right? You can keep it for your generations. And Moses said unto Aaron, take a pot and put an omer full of manna therein and lay it up before the Lord to be kept for your generations, right? And it was said that, all right, hold on, wait a minute. Verse 34. As the Lord commanded Moses, so Aaron laid it up before the testimony to be kept, right? So that's the ark of the testimony, right? That's what they ended up putting Aaron ended up putting his manna, or Moses, one of them, ended up putting their manna in the Ark of the Covenant. That was one of the things that was in the Ark of the Covenant. Probably still is. And the children of Israel did eat manna 40 years until they came to a land inhabited. They did eat manna until they came unto the borders of the land of Canaan. Now Omer is the 10th part of ephah. We just talked about that. That's 3.5 liters apparently. And all the congregation of the children of Israel journeyed from the wilderness of Sin after their journeys, according to the commandment of the Lord, and pitched in Rephidim. And there was no water for the people to drink. Wherefore the people did chide with Moses, and said, give us water that we may drink. And Moses said unto them, why chide ye with me? Wherefore do ye tempt the Lord? Why are you tempting God? Like Moses already had this conversation with them. He's getting sick of it at this point. He's like, why are you? I already told you, you're not mad at me. You're not angry with me. You're mad at God. We're following God. He's like, why are you tempting God? And the people thirsted there for water. And the people murmured against Moses and said, wherefore is this that thou hast brought us up out of Egypt to kill us and our children and our cattle with thirst? He said, why did you bring us out of Egypt? Why did you bring us out of Egypt? Why did you bring us out of Egypt? Like every time that they don't get their way, well, why did you even bring us here, Moses? It's just, and Moses keeps trying to tell him, it's not me. I'm not leading this mission here. Oh, well. And Moses cried unto the Lord, saying, what shall I do unto this people? They be almost ready to stone me, right? Moses like, they already want to kill me. It's been like 3 months, and they're already trying to kill me. And the Lord said unto Moses, go on before the people, and take with thee of the elders of Israel, and thy rod, wherewith thou smotest the river, take in thy hand and go. Behold, I will stand before thee there upon the rock in Horeb. And thou shalt smite the rock, and there shall come water out of it, that the people may drink. And Moses did so in the sight of the elders of Israel. And he called the name of the place Massah and Meribah, because of the chiding of the children of Israel. I believe Meribah means strife. Massah, maybe great. It might be different than Massah. And behold, they tempted the Lord, saying, is the Lord among us or not? So all the strife, all the foolishness of that wicked generation. They've literally seen all the miracles that we've been reading about, saw it with their own eyes. Still, they don't believe. They don't have faith that God's going to provide for them and take care of them. Then came Amalek and fought with Israel in Rephidim. And Moses said unto Joshua, choose us out men and go out fight with Amalek. Tomorrow I will stand on the top of the hill with the rod of God in my hand. So Joshua did as Moses had said to him and fought with Amalek. And Moses, Aaron, and Hur went up to the top of the hill. It came to pass, when Moses held up his hand, that Israel prevailed. And when he let down his hand, Amalek prevailed. All right, so Amalek is a sect, is a group of Esau. Is one of the, Amalek specifically is like, I think, the grandson of Esau. So the Amalekites are just a tribe of Edomites. All right. But Moses' hands were heavy, and they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat thereon. And because have you ever tried to like keep your hand up, well, his hands rather. They said his hands. You ever tried to like keep your hands up, and like it's all right for several seconds, but then several minutes. You think maybe an hour. Like it's hard to hold them up. They kind of like start falling, and as Moses' hands started falling, the children of Israel started falling in the battle. All right. And he sat thereon, and Aaron and Hur stayed up his hands, the one on the one side, the other on the other side, and his hands were steady until the going down of the sun, right? So, you have Aaron on one side, Hur on the other side, holding his hands up. Even though Moses is getting weak, he can't really hold them up no more. They holding up his hands. All right. And Joshua discomfited Amalek and his people with the edge of the sword, right? He was lighting them up, all right? And the Lord said unto Moses, write this for a memorial in a book, and rehearse it in the ears of Joshua. For I will utterly put out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. And Moses built an altar, and called the name of it Jehovah Nissi. For he said, because the Lord has sworn that the Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation. Right? God does not like Amalekites. All right? It's like his most despised people is Amalek. All right? So, we made it to chapter 18, and we can pick up with chapter 18 next week. I really wanted to get into 19 next week, but we can do that after we read 18. But it's more, 18 is more like the organization of the 12 tribes into an army. Even though they were fighting right here, they didn't really have any organization about them. You read about that in chapter 18. Chapter 19 goes into the covenant that God made with the children of Israel. So I really want to get into that. So, hey, I hope y'all learned something. And since we read about the salvation of God's people this week, we got to read Matthew 26, the memorial for the sister, because that is the gospel. That is the good news. All right. And I haven't really been so subtle about the comparisons between the Exodus and what's about to take place, the Exodus from America. All right, this is spiritual Egypt. All right, God's people will be delivered from this place as well. So in Matthew 26, starting with verse 6, now when Jesus was in Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, there came unto him a woman having an alabaster box, a very precious ointment, and poured it on his head as he sat at meat. But when his disciples saw it, they had indignation, saying, to what purpose is this waste? What his ointment might have been sold for much and given to the poor. When Jesus understood it, he said unto them, why trouble ye the woman? For she hath wrought a good work upon me. For ye have the poor always with you, but me ye have not always. For in that she hath poured this ointment on my body, she did it for my burial. Verily I say unto you, wheresoever this gospel shall be preached in the whole world, there shall also this that this woman hath done be told for a memorial of her. So all praises to the Most High for that sister who did that wonderful thing for our Lord. And with that, hope y'all learned something. I'm going to say shalom and let God be magnified.